Hey guys, WFO Bass Fishing here. I'm Brandon.
I'm Hayden.
And we just wanted to have a tournament recap video to discuss our last week's tournament at the High School Fishing World Finals. And we just want to discuss how it all happened, how the week went, and just tell you guys all about it.
Well, so for everyone that doesn't know how the High School Fishing World Finals works, it's a 4-day tournament, and this year it was in conjunction with the High School Fishing National Championship, the FLW High School Fishing Championship. The High School Fishing Championship was a 3-day tournament, and they did a 3-day total weight. Biggest 3-day total weight won that. Well, the World Finals is a 4-day tournament, and the format goes, the first 2 days you're only fishing against your state. So the top 2 teams from each state go into a championship bracket on day 3, and all the other teams go into a consolation bracket. So then on that day 3, the top 10 weights from the national championship, they move on to day 4 of the World Finals. The top 10 weights from the championship round of the World Finals, they move on to the day 4, and then the top 10 weights after that from the consolation round, they move on to day 4. So then day 4 is the top 30 teams, and then there's also a lucky dog drawing, so one of the teams that didn't make the final day cut have a chance to compete. So day 4 is 31 teams, the weights are zeroed, and the biggest weight from the final day wins the tournament.
So now that you know how the tournament actually works, we had a tournament meeting on Tuesday night, so the tournament would start on Wednesday, and so we got down there on Sunday afternoon, and we fished a little bit Sunday afternoon, and then we got 2 full days in the water, Monday and Tuesday, to pre-fish. And so we started out with, we had probably 10 rods on the deck, throwing everything, fishing deep, fishing shallow, just trying to figure out where the fish were, where our best bites would be, and what they were biting on. And so we were able to narrow it down a little bit when it came to the first day of the tournament, but we decided that we were only gonna, the fish that we found in practice we didn't think would be able to produce to be the top 2 in our state. So we decided that we were gonna come in with, we're gonna try to get 5 fish each day on the first 2 days, but we weren't gonna go for the total weight to be in the top 2 of our state. So we came in with 7 pounds the first day, and then 12 and some change the second day.
Yeah, so those first 2 days, we fished a creek channel bend up near the Natchez Trace Bridge, and we found a Carolina rig to be most productive while we were fishing there. We both fished it on the same setup. We fished the 7.6 Lightning Shock heavy action rod, and we were both throwing the Lew's speed spools. We had a little pre-rigged Carolina rig on there with we were fishing 40-pound braid, and then our leader that we were throwing was 15-pound Seagar Red Label. We found that the brush hogs were most productive. It didn't matter what color, just as long as it was a dark color, and the size didn't really matter. We threw full size and we threw the baby brush hogs, but that's what we found to be most productive. We both we varied up the leaders for the Carolina rigs. I was throwing about a 2.5 to 3 foot leader, and then he was throwing a massive 4 foot leader. But that's how we kind of got our fish the first 2 days. And actually, day 2 is where we found the spot that led to us eventually getting second place in the tournament.
So it was late in the day on Thursday, and that was the second day of the tournament, and we were coming in, just kind of idling through the creek channel, idling through there, and we were just kind of scanning, looking around before we had to go into the weigh-in, and we came upon something that was just a ton of cover, but around it there was nothing. It was all bare, and then it was just cover in the middle of nothing, and we saw that there was fish holding on it, and we'll show you a picture of what it looked like. Kind of looked like the 2 different spots of cover that we had found probably 100 yards apart. So that's what the cover looked like, and we were like, well, there's fish holding there, but we didn't have enough time to wet a line and test the cover that we'd found, so we just kind of put it in the back of our minds and saved it for if we needed it the next 2 days. So Friday was when that's when the weight zeroed, and we were trying to get into the top 10 of the consolation round. And so we went out and we had found a spot earlier in the week, pre-fishing, where we had caught a 4.5 pounder, and we kind of knew, fishing Pickwick previous years, that there were some big fish that would hold there. So we saved that spot, and that was our kind of our best bet for the day that mattered, the top 10. So we were there, we were fishing there until about 10:30 in the morning, didn't get a bite. And so that was a little nerve-wracking, but we decided, we got to make a move, we got to do something to make it in the top 10. So we decided to go back to where we saw that massive cover, those two things, a massive cover that we found, and we went there, and then maybe in about 20 minutes fishing that spot, we had a 3.5 pounder in the boat, and we were feeling pretty good. We knew that there was fish there. And then I'd say in about an hour we had 16 pounds in the boat, and it was about 12:15, and we were feeling pretty good, but we knew that 16 would be iffy to make it in the top 10, so we decided that we needed to probably cull one more time to guarantee our top 10's finish that day. And so within probably about 5 minutes of talking about it, we were able to get a 4.5 pounder in the boat and cull up to about 18 pounds. And so then we kind of just stopped fishing for the day. We didn't want to fish out that spot too hard. And we finished that day up, and we made it in the top 10, finished 5th.
Yeah, and that day 3, I was still throwing a Carolina rig, same as we were throwing the first 2 days, but he decided to change it up a little bit, and he threw a Texas rig, brush hog. And on that day 3, he actually, I think 4 of the 5 fish that we brought up to the scales was his. And I'll let him kind of explain the setup that he was throwing with that Texas rig, and then I'll also explain my setup.
Yeah, so I was throwing this Texas rig. I was throwing the normal size brush hog. We were throwing it on tungsten, but with a 4/0 hook. But the cover that we were fishing, it was a lot of cover, so we would get hung up a lot, but we didn't want to go in there and disturb the fish, scare them away or something, so we would just immediately break off. So I switched to lead after that because, tungsten these days is pretty expensive. And so I was fishing lead, and then he started throwing the Texas rig too because we were getting big bites on it. And I was fishing a 7.5-to-1 speed spool LFS reel. And it worked pretty well. It was all good, and I was throwing it on 15-pound Seagar red label, and so it all worked well. We were getting good bites, and it was great.
Then on day 3, when I switched up to throwing the Texas rig, I threw that on the Lew's Tournament Pro, and I also threw that on the Fenwick HMG 7-foot medium action rod. Had 15-pound. Seagar red label fluorocarbon on there, a 3/8 ounce tungsten weight with the Eagle Claw Trocar 4/0 hook, and I stuck to kind of throwing the full size brush hog most of the day. And then so on day 4, we knew that spot on day 3 we caught 18 pounds on was going to be our spot that we were going to stick to, and that was going to be the spot we had the best chance of catching a good bag. So that next day we headed to that spot, but there was an old road bed that we wanted to check out first. We fished there for maybe 15 minutes, just caught one little dink. So then we made our way over to our honey hole, and within the first cast, I hooked one. He ended up getting me tangled up in some sticks, and I broke off. So that was a little upsetting, but maybe 2 or 3 casts after retying, I hooked into a good about 5-pound even, and that was the biggest fish of the day was that one. So getting that in the boat was sweet. We were pumped up. Maybe 2 casts later, we both double up. He has about a 4.5 pounder, and I have about a 3.5 to 3/4 pounder, and so that was sweet. And then just from there on, we just started tuna hauling fish. And by 6:30, we had a limit of about 20 pounds, but then the fishing just shut off. So we were like, well, if there's going to be a spot we catch a good kicker, good 6.5, 7 pound kicker, it's going to be at this spot. So we just grinded it out at this spot. And here's a little image of our track log there.
Yeah, so as you can see, we really did just hammer these spots all day. You know, we weren't going fast on these circles. This was working slow at every angle of the cast, and you know it kind of sucked. You know, with when the fishing stopped. You know, for like 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours of fishing this without getting a bite, doing the same thing over and over. But we knew that we had to stick it out if we were going to get a big one. So I mean, we didn't want to have regrets, so we decided to just hammer as much as we could.
Yeah, and after fishing there for about 3.5 hours and not getting a bite, we were like, okay, let's move back to maybe the spot that we had originally kept for the final day to try to catch a kicker there. Fished there for maybe about an hour, finally hooked into another good one. It was about a 4.5 pounder. That ended up culling out one of our 3.5s. So that bumped us up to about a little over 22 pounds. And that ended up being the last fish that we caught of the day. So then we went into the weigh-in. The team that eventually ended up getting first place, they weighed in before us, and they weighed in 24 pounds and some change. And so we knew we didn't have first, so we were a little disappointed at that. We went up there, weighed our fish. We did have one deceased fish. It was just real hot that day, and when we had the fish in the live well since around 6 to 6:30 that morning, them being in the live well all day, that's hard on them. So we had an 8-ounce penalty. Our final weight ended up being 22 pounds even. And then, since it was being filmed for TV, the weigh-in was, the tournament director was kind of drawing out the weights. He was waiting a long time to say the weights, and so that's when the final team came up, and he drew that out for maybe like 4 minutes. Had the bag on the scale and wasn't saying the weight, and so we were kind of nervous. We could tell they had a good bag. He eventually said, "Well, it is over 20 pounds." So then we were sweating because we were like, "Well, we have 22 pounds, and you know they might have a good bag." Eventually, he finally said they had 20 pounds and some change. So that secured second place for us. We were hyped. We were jumping up and down in the crowd. So that was awesome. And then he'll tell you a little bit about what we won.
Yeah, so the first place winners, they were actually 2 sophomores, so they weren't eligible to accept the grand prize, which was scholarships. And the scholarship that was able to drop down to the second place because they were not seniors, dropped down to us, and so we were both offered a $24,000 Berkley University scholarship, each of us, and that would be to cover our fishing expenses all 4 years while we're on the Bethel fishing team. So we're still waiting to hear more about it, you know, because we both planned on fishing at Mississippi State and going there, but we're interested in learning more about that and seeing what we can do with that. But then also we both got a GoPro Hero 5 session. We both got one of those, and then we also got Cabela's $500 gift card, each of us. And then for every senior in the tournament, favorite fishing, they gave us all an Absolute rod. It didn't come with a reel, I just had that on there. But they gave us all a rod, so that was pretty awesome. And then, what was the next thing? Oh, and if you guys didn't see this in the video, we got these second place trophies. I mean, they're not very big, you know. They're just about 5 foot tall almost, and I don't know, they're all right.
Yeah, and you know what TBF is doing with high school fishing is really great. We kind of hate it that we won't get to fish any more tournaments at the high school level, but we're really excited about getting into the college series and doing real well there. But we would just really like to thank our sponsors. Without them, none of this is possible. We'd really like to do a big shout out to our fishing coach at our school. You know, he's built this program up from where it was nothing 4 years ago to where it is now. He's done so much, and we're thankful that he's put his time into helping us and getting the team to where it is. We'd also like to thank our boat captain, Stephen Whitehead. You know, I've had the honor to fish under him for 2 years now, and you know, I've learned so much from him. And Brandon's only had the chance to fish with him this year, but I know he's learned a lot from him. And you know, if there's any boat captains or people that are thinking about being boat captains at the high school level, you should really consider it, because even though it's tough having to sit in the boat and just watch 2 kids fish for the whole day, you guys don't realize how much that helps us, and it just grows our love for the sport and makes us want to be out there more. And then, you know, to end it, we just really like to thank our families, because they support us. You know, they help us with buying fishing supplies. They go to our tournaments and watch the weigh-ins, and so it's just really nice to have that support and know that someone really cares about our love for the sport of fishing.
Yes, so I mean, Hayden said it all right there. It really just means a lot for everyone that supports us all and supports us in everything that we do. And so I mean, that last week of fishing, it was definitely something we'll never forget. And just to finish the way we did for the last high school tournament and the biggest high school tournament, you know, it's pretty awesome. And so that's it for this video, guys. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. Like it and subscribe, because we're going to be coming out with a lot more videos. And so just thanks for watching, guys.
See ya.